What's going on, you guys? You're tuned into the Cutting Room Knife Review. I'm your host, Garrett, and today we have another budget banger. Today we are checking out the Flytanium Arcade Lite. What's up, guys? I'm Garrett. You're tuned into the Cutting Room Knife Review, where I review knives, blades, and all things sharp. Please like and subscribe so I can keep bringing you more killer knife content. Now, the Flytanium Arcade Lite is right on the edge of what we consider budget bangers. And if you haven't checked out my show before, this is the first time you're seeing a budget banger episode. What a budget banger is on this channel is any knife that's below $100 that's a good quality everyday carry knife that I think would be good to bring to my audience for them to check out. It has good value, good materials. It's an exceptional knife for less than $100. Now, what's a budget knife? That's up to you to decide what a budget knife is. But in our case, we're keeping it at a real easy, under $100 is a budget knife. And so this knife comes in at $99. And that's right on the edge, I know, of budget knives. But it is in that category, and it is a good choice. And it has some really unique features to it. And I think that it is worth showing on the channel. Now, this is the second time I have filmed this episode. I actually filmed it and released it earlier today. I didn't film it earlier today, but I released it earlier today. And within like an hour of it filming, I made a huge mistake. And somebody caught me in this mistake and they let me know it right away. And I'm just going to admit it, what my mistake was. And because I can own that kind of thing. I'm not somebody who thinks I know everything about knives. I'm not somebody who thinks that I'm the best knife reviewer in the world. I'm not somebody who, doesn't like other knife reviewers or can't take being wrong. I do this because I love it. I do this because I love knives. I do this because when I started, I was just on Reddit taking photos of my knives and giving reviews of new knives that I bought after I bought them. And eventually people started saying I had a way with words and I explained things well with the knives, and basically that I'm long-winded, which I am, probably borderline autistic when it comes to knives, but I just have dove into this hobby and I love it and I love sharing stuff about it. And so back to my mistake. My mistake is that I said Flytanium was an offshoot of Demco knives, and that is not the truth. And I think user Knife Steel Nerds corrected me on this. I'm even going to say who corrected me. Knife Steel Nerds, I'm pretty sure, is the username on YouTube that corrected me. I'm pretty sure he has a channel, so go check that out. Cool guy, cool dude. And he said that, I should do my research. And I guess I should have. I really honestly thought that Demco had something to do with Flytanium. And I guess they don't. I guess that Flytanium just licenses the Shark Lock from Demco. And it's its own company. They make scales. They make lots of really cool scales for various knife brands like Spyderco, Benchmade, Demco, I believe. They make scales for. And actually, I'm not sure all what brands they make scales for, but I know Spyderco is a big one. And I'm not going to get into that today because we're not talking about Flytanium scales. We're talking about a knife Flytanium makes. But anyway, I took that episode down. I recorded and edited a 30-minute episode on this knife, and I took it down because I'm not going to spread misinformation. And I can admit when I'm wrong. And I am proud to say that I'm here to spread good information to you guys. And I'm here to be a positive, I want to be a positive person. I want to be a positive just being in this space. Like there's a lot of negativity in the knife community at times. And there's a lot of gatekeeping in the knife community. And there's a lot of just bad energy sometimes spread around. And a lot of times there's really good energy too. And that's what I'm here for. I'm just here for good energy, and I can admit when I'm wrong. And it was, in my opinion, it was a small mistake. I made a mistake, and so I'm correcting it. And so now we're going to review this knife all over again. And I think I'm going to go through it a little faster this time because I'm a little frustrated, but it's okay. It's all good. And Knife Steel Nerds, thank you. I appreciate you. No hard feelings, actually. Thank you for calling me out. I'm going to do better. So, Flytanium is a company that has been known for making scales for knives. And they released a knife called the Arcade. And this is the Arcade. And the kind of the shtick behind the Arcade was it's upgradable. You can take pieces of different parts of this knife and upgrade them, all kinds of stuff. You can change out the inset in the liner, or not the liner, the scale, right? You can change out the blade. This is a different blade than comes on the typical Arcade. You can add a backspacer. You can change the clip if you want to, I'm sure. You can change the studs for the thumb studs on the blade. There's lots of different things you can do to change this knife. You can change the scales itself, upgrade them to titanium. So the original Arcade, the regular Arcade, is this knife, but I've actually upgraded this knife. And what I've done to this knife is I've upgraded the blade. The blade that comes on the normal Arcade is like this. It's a drop point like this, except it's S35VN. I upgraded it to 20CV and this Tonto, which is their upgrade blade. I added a backspacer. I changed the colors of the thumb studs. I thought it was cool. I've turned this from a $200 knife into probably a $350, $375 knife. So this is not a budget banger. But what is the Arcade Lite. And so what they did is they took the basic concept of their Arcade. They took the shape of the scales, the blade shape and geometry of their knife, and they kept the shark lock, and they kept some features on it, like you can throw in a backspacer if you wanted to. You can change the clip. You can change the thumb studs. You can change the blade. There's still a lot of stuff you can do to this knife, but they started off with just like a cheaper version of it, a less expensive version of it, a budget version of it, if you will. And so that's what this is. So let's get into the specifications of this knife, why it's a budget knife, and what the differences of it and the original or regular Arcade are. So the Flytanium Arcade Lite. Now its overall length is going to be 7.7 inches, which is a really good everyday carry overall length. If you are familiar with my channel, I always say my everyday carry preference is between 7 and 8 inches overall, with a blade length of 3 to 3.5 inches. So now the blade length of this knife is 3.2 inches, and that puts this knife right smack in the middle of where I like it. I think this is a wonderful size knife for everyday carry. This is a very comfortable size knife for me. It's like just about the right size. Flytanium did that right. They made the knife just the right size. I will hand that to them. It is what I would say is not too big, not too small, like that Goldilocks size, that just right. So we have 7.7 inches overall, a 3.2 inch blade length. Now we have a blade thickness of 0.126. So the thickness is 0.126, which is right in the middle of everything. It's not too thin. It's not too thick. We have a flat grind on this AUS 10 or AUS 10A. So AUS 10A or AUS 10A, however you want to say it, blade. And AUS 10A is a budget blade steel. It's not a powdered metallurgical steel. It is a stainless steel. It is what we find on a lot of Demco knives. And this is like another reason why like my brain went to Demco when I thought about this company, is because Demco also uses AUS 10 steel as their bottom line budget steel. It's below D2 as far as their pricing goes, which is kind of crazy to me because, I mean, OS10A is an inexpensive steel, but so is D2. Like some of the cheapest, least expensive knives I have are D2 steel. But, you know, as we know, like steel can be done correctly or incorrectly. And like heat treated D2 steel is amazing. And poorly heat treated D2 steel, excuse me, that was a tongue twister, is absolute crap. So anyway, we have OS10A, and it's kind of akin to VG10. It's kind of like a budget VG10. I would say VG10 is a step nicer than OS10A, but you're getting a lot of similar qualities in that steel. So if you're familiar with like the base models of the Spyderco from the Seki City factory, the Japanese Spyderco models, they use a lot of VG10 in their knives, and this OS10A isn't too much different than it. You're going to see differences in toughness and differences in edge retention, and I think we're going to get edge retention is going to go to the VG10 as well as stainlessness, corrosion resistance, and then we have toughness going to the AUS10A. This is a PVD coating on the AUS10A, so we really don't have to worry too much about corrosion resistance, as we know that coated blades definitely are the coating of a blade really helps with the corrosion resistance of a blade. So if you're going to use a steel like, say, D2 or 3V or Crewware even, using a tool steel that's not stainless, coating it can be a good way to assist in helping resist corrosion to your blade. So we have this PVD coated AUS10 steel knife. It's a good enough quality steel for a budget blade. For the price, it's okay. It's all right. I think that there's companies that offer better steels for less money than this, but I'm not going to cry about AUS10A. OS10A. You guys can let me know in the comments whether people say AUS10A or OS10A. I'm not really sure, but it doesn't bother me in this knife. I think there's other parts of this knife that make up for it in the price difference, but really, some of the parts of this knife are kind of on like the lower end as far as materials go. We have a polycarbonate handle, or the scales are polycarbonate, which is an interesting choice. We see polycarbonate a lot in like firearms. We don't see it a ton in scale materials. I find it to be kind of slippery. Once it's in my hand, it's not bad. It's not like sliding around like crazy, but it's really not very tacky at all. It is fairly smooth and slippery. We do have some like cross hatching right here, but it is a texture, but it really doesn't serve to be that grippy. We do have nice jimping along the top of the spine of the knife, and that does help out with controlling the knife and keeping it in my hand, because this is grippy right here. The blade is a nice drop point shape. I'll hand it that. It is a pretty blade. I like the way this blade looks. The handle, I think, looks very generic, but it actually has pretty good ergonomics. It's pretty comfy in my hand. It fits just about right. I wear a size XL glove, and this knife is comfy to me. I can choke up on it right here, and it has a nice little thicker point to choke up on, and I really like that. It's kind of like a pistol grip, and it kind of like makes my index finger kind of stick out like, like bang bang in a gun, and that just allows me to really pinch right here and have a lot of control on the closest fingers I have to the blade. And that makes me feel very in control of the knife, and I like that. When I don't have that thickness to it, I don't really have the same as much of a feeling of control. When I have that little extra bit of thickness, I really am able to squeeze in with my thumb and my index finger and really control this blade. And I can get very, very detailed with the work that I do with this blade. And I like that. There's some Vosteeds that, a lot of knives do this, but Vosteed in particular has a couple knives that are very nice with this like little addition of material where it makes it almost like a pistol grip. Now, we have, to round everything off, we have stainless steel hardware and a stainless steel deep carry pocket clip. And I like the pocket clip on this. It looks like a Civivi pocket clip to me. It's basic, but it works. It's really easy to put in the pocket. It doesn't catch on anything. It has the right amount of tightness, and it carries perfectly deep. It's right here, right at the edge of the butt of the knife, and that's where it should be. It doesn't hang over in a weird way, and it doesn't allow any of the knife really to stick out of your pocket. It's about a dead perfect deep carry clip. Now, this knife is very straight. It doesn't have like any curve to it. And that's kind of something that I find funny. It makes it, when you have a little bit of curve to the knife, what it does is it pushes the blade down like this, and then you don't have to twist your wrist so much to get the blade to cut through an object. The XM18 is a really good example of this from Hinder. It's almost like a boomerang. The Para 3 actually does this. It's got like a curve to it, and that curve to it allows you to push the blade comes down through the material that you're cutting much easier, and you don't have to have this cock to your wrist to get the blade angle down. So those are the basic materials and the basic size of this knife. I forgot one thing. So this is a very light knife at 2.9 ounces. It is almost like a Spyderco lightweight version of a knife. So Spyderco offers their lightweight versions, and typically they have a FRN handle, which is less expensive than their G10 handle. A lot of times it doesn't have a liner in it. This does have a stainless steel liner in it. And it ends up like saving weight from the knife. So it does come out as kind of like a cheaper version of the knife, but it is a very lightweight knife. And same with this case. This is much lighter than the aluminum body regular Arcade. This is a more substantial knife. It's not a crazy substantial knife, but it is much more substantial in weight than its lightweight sibling, or the Arcade Lite. And I guess it's called Lite for a reason. That, I don't know why that didn't click with me till now, but light bulb just went off in my head. Arcade Lite, it's lightweight. The last thing about this knife that's really cool, that sets it apart from a lot of knives, is the locking mechanism that it uses. And it does use the patented shark lock. It's the Demco shark lock. It is not a ripoff of the shark lock. It is not a super lock, which is basically close to the same thing made by Snex Tan and used in Civivi and Wii knives. It is the Demco shark lock is what Flytanium uses. And I think that more knives should utilize the Demco shark lock. I don't know how much they charge as far as royalties to use the Demco shark lock, but it is an amazing lock, and I am always happy to have it on any of my knives. So what the shark lock is you have this, you have the spine of your knife, and you have this bar right here, and this bar has a little tab that's a finger tab, and there is a spring that's held right back here in the frame that pushes the bar this way. Now the bar has a notch in it that keeps the blade locked. When we pull this bar back, the blade is now free to close, and it winds up having like a spring-like action, not unlike a crossbar lock or an axis lock or a ball bearing lock from Spyderco. It kind of has a similar feel to that because of the spring being kind of part of the detent. Excuse me, I just had a complete brain fart. I could not think of the word detent. The spring is part of the detent, but I like the way that the shark lock feels so much better than crossbar locks. Not only does it feel more sturdy and safe, I think it just has a better action to it. This knife in particular doesn't have the best action as far as shark locks go. Now, I have discussed this with many people, and I've had a lot of people tell me that the Flytanium shark locks are better than the Demco shark locks. My experience with my two Flytanium knives is they are not as nice feeling of shark locks as my three Demco knives. I'm beginning to think that it might be a knife by knife thing, and which spring you get, or just how your knife was made, and the tiny little minutia of a difference that might go through the production process from knife to knife. I don't think I have a bad experience with the Flytanium knives. I did notice that there is kind of a little bit of a break-in period. I have flicked this knife a little bit. This isn't brand new, but see how it's getting kind of stuck right there. I find that it happens on this knife, and I'm not really sure if it's just because of the lightweight scales and just it not being as there not being as much inertia in the movement because of the lighter weight, or if it's just this knife being a cheaper knife. Now, theoretically, a shark lock should be a shark lock should be a shark lock, and I'm pretty sure I know Flytanium is made in Taiwan, and Demco's OEM knives, their non-American line of knives, is also made in Taiwan, which is another reason that I thought that they were the same the same company, which they are not, and I was wrong. But they theoretically this shark lock should be the same as the shark lock on this Demco. This one's black and this one's not. But I guess if you look at this, like the frame on this is much thicker and the frame on this is much thinner. So that might have to do with why I think that this shark lock just feels like higher end. But this is the same, shark lock as this. Maybe just the same technology and they're manufactured differently. And come to think of it, the way that the frame is on this and the thickness of it compared to my Demco 80 20.5 seems to tell me that that's the case. That's just simply a technology. I'm not sure if Demco actually sells these shark locks to Flytanium, or if Flytanium, bought the rights to build their own shark locks. Maybe that's some research I should do. I didn't get that detailed into this knife. In fact, I just kind of thought about that on the fly right now as we're talking. So the shark lock is cool though, and I think the shark lock warrants more money. There are many reasons that I don't think this knife is worth what they charge for it, but this shark lock mechanism definitely adds to what I'm willing to pay for the knife. I'm willing to pay for this knife because of the shark lock a lot more than I am, say, if let's take like a Civivi, for instance. We have like a Civivi Guile, which is a much less expensive knife. It's maybe like half the price of this, a little bit more than half the price of this, and really like the materials in these two are fairly competent and fairly equal. In fact, I might argue that this has a better blade steel, and G10 should be more expensive than polycarbonate. But who knows? But this has a liner lock, and I just don't think that the liner lock on this knife is as desirable as the shark lock on this knife. I really find that the locking mechanism adds value to this knife. So that's really what I think about this knife as far as specifications and materials goes. It's made with a decent blade steel. It has very inexpensive handle materials, and it kind of feels cheap in my opinion. I think the polycarbonate feels cheap. There's no way around it. It's not bad. It doesn't feel terrible, but I think there's better choices they could have made. As far as this goes, they could have used a different material than the polycarbonate. But maybe that's just me. Maybe that's just my opinion. Maybe you love it, and there's nothing wrong with it. There's certainly nothing wrong with it. And the ergonomics are nice on it. And it is lightweight. I will give it that. So those are all pluses from it. Now, let's compare this knife to peers of this knife. So, as every knife reviewer knows, by the laws of knife reviewing, I have to first compare it to the Spyderco Para 3. I don't make the rules. That's just the way it is. I'm pretty sure somebody would bust in the door and arrest me if I didn't compare it to this knife first. So as we see, it is a little bit larger than the Para 3. One of the main things that we do notice is the shape of the knife. The shape of the Para 3 has a curve to it. This is incredibly straight. We can compare it to the Paramilitary 2 next, which by law I have to compare it to after the Para 3. And it is a tad bit smaller than the PM2 and a tad bit bigger than the Para 3. It's kind of right in the happy medium size. In fact, I would say this is the quintessential medium size knife. It is smack in the middle. They kind of nailed the middle with this knife and its size. And my hat's off to them because it is comfortable. I will say the size of this knife is incredibly comfortable. In no way does it feel too big, and in no way does it feel small. So hats off to you, Flytanium. You chose the correct size for a good everyday carry knife. You really did. The pair of three at times can feel a little bit small. This is about as small of a knife as I am willing to carry for my everyday carry. This is about as small of a knife as I'm willing to go out by myself or by itself with me. If I'm going to carry a knife, I'm going to carry a knife, and there's not really anywhere I'm willing to go. This is about as small as I'm willing to go if I'm just carry one knife. Now, there are extenuating circumstances where I do carry smaller knives than this. But for the most part, if I'm going to work, if I'm going out and about, and I always have a knife on me, this is about as small as I go. But, you know, there are certainly times where this is overkill, or I don't need this much knife. Not many. There's definitely not many times where the PM2 is too much, but there are. So they really nailed it with pretty much the perfect middle ground. Now, we can compare it next to its sibling, the Arcade, just regular version. And as you can see, they are exactly the same size. They are just the same knife. This is just made with less expensive materials, lighter materials. This is more expensive materials. It has a super steel blade. The stock blade is S35VN. You can upgrade it to a 20CV blade, which is basically Crucible's M390. If you want to, you know, compare steels. We have an aluminum frame. We have inlays in the frame. I added a backspacer. This knife doesn't come with a backspacer. If you look at the shark locks, though, they have the same shark lock. It is pretty much the same thing. Actually, it is not the same shark lock. I take that back. When you get this upgrade blade, you have to change the shark lock out in it. I do not know why that is the case. I do know, though, that the blades for the light and the regular blade that comes with the regular Arcade, the S35VN blade, are swappable, and you would have the same shark lock on both those knives. For some reason, this Tonto blade that they allow you to upgrade to, you have to change this shark lock mechanism out, and they give you one with it. And I don't know what's different about it. I think it has something to do with the tang of the knife or how it, like, you know, sits in the mechanism. I don't think it's like a beefier mechanism. It doesn't look to be a beefier mechanism. I think it's just a slight design change and something didn't fit right. Not quite sure. Didn't look too much into it. By the time I got done with this knife and upgrading it, I just didn't like it enough to have all the money that I spent on it. I just kind of felt like I could buy a lot better of a knife for less money than I dumped into it. But that's not really the point. The point is to do the upgrades yourself and to kind of swap stuff around, and you can change this knife all around and make it look different and have different feels all day. So you can have like the same knife, but it's kind of like a transformer it. You can just transform it into one thing to another thing to have, you know, multiple, you know, versions of your knife. You can have a different blade for a different day. You can have different inlays for a different day, which is kind of cool. I don't really care that much about it. I upgraded it once and I was kind of over it. But if that's your thing and you want to like spend money on one knife, that's kind of a cool knife because you can keep, there's a bunch of different stuff you can do to it. Not so much with this knife. You can't change as many things, but you can definitely, you know, add a backspacer. You can change, I think you can change around your studs on this blade even. You can change your blade out. There's different stuff you can do to it. So let's compare this to some other knives that are popular with it. We have, let's compare it to some Demcos. This is the Demco 80 20.5 in CPM 3V with a Tonto blade. And it's about the same size. The 80 20.5 and the Flytanium Arcade are very close in the same size, which again, they seem very, very related, even though I've been told they're not. But they are. If you're comfortable with the 80 20.5, you're probably going to be comfortable with the size of the Flytanium Arcade, because both my 80 20.5s are just about the same size of it. Now the shark's foot, 80 20.5 is a little bit shorter, but I'm pretty sure the shark's foot 80 20.5 is a little bit shorter than the drop point and the Tonto versions of that knife anyway. So this is the G10 scale version of a Demko 80 20.5. This is the titanium scale version, the 80 20.5. And they're essentially very similar in shape. They're very similar. I mean, there's different cutouts. This hand, it has a much nicer handle, in my opinion, to it. But they're very straight knives. They go very straight. There's not a lot of curve to them. They are pretty close to the same size. The blades are pretty close to the same size. If you're comfortable with a Demko, you're probably going to be comfortable with a Flytanium. Now, we also can compare this knife to the Demko 8020S, which will feel much different. If you're used to USA-made Demkos, they're going to be a whole lot bigger than your Flytanium Arcade or Arcade Lite. This is just a beast of a knife by comparison, and all the 8020 and 8020S are just much bigger than the 8020.5s. Now, we have some smaller knives than it. Like we have the Kaiser Drop Bear, which is going to be a smaller knife than it. We have the Vosteed Martin, which is going to be a smaller knife than it. So, if you're comfortable with these knives, this is going to be a little bit of a step up in size for you. If you're not comfortable with these knives and they're a little small for you, kind of like I am, this might be a good upgrade to you. This might be a good choice for a budget banger because it is a little bit on the bigger side. Now, there is one other knife maker who makes a very similar lock to this knife, and that is Sextan with Civivi's Vision FG. And if you look at it, these are very similar in size. If you're comfortable with the Vision FG, you are probably going to be comfortable with the Arcade or Arcade Lite. And honestly, they have very similar locking mechanisms. Now, if you look at this, it is a different mechanism, but essentially it does the same thing. We have a longer bar on this, and the spring sits in a different spot. But for all intents and purposes, it acts the same. They do the same thing, and they hold the blade very similarly. Now, this brings up a great point. If this is $99, and excuse I added some I added some scales on this, so this knife is, I put a little bit of money into it, but this is originally a less expensive knife than this knife. And this knife had, it had G10 scales on it, I'm pretty sure. Mine actually might have had like Ultex, whatever the clear material is that comes on the Civivi knives. But it's a nicer knife than this. I would prefer to have the Nitro V blade to the OS 10 blade, personally. I would rather have the materials that the Civivi is made out of than the material that the Flytanium is made out of. That's the way I look at it, and this is $10 less expensive, and you're getting essentially a very similar experience. We have thumb studs for deployment. We have a lock that essentially works the exact same way. It deploys the exact same way. They do feel a slightly bit different. You might prefer this one over this one. They do have a bit of a different feel. This is a little bit looser of a feel. I don't feel as much detent in this. It's more even all the way across too. There's kind of a spring at the bottom of this and a lock at the top. Not too unlike a Benchmade Axis lock. If you ever feel one of those, there's a lot of detent at the bottom and then spring across it. Whereas this one feels more fluid across the entire travel. This is more of a fluid tension, whereas this one has tension down here, then it releases and then hits again at the top. That's going to be a personal preference thing. I can't tell you which one you're going to like more, but I know that this comes off cheaper. less expensive. Now, also for $99, you can get this knife, which is like it's a buster. It's ridiculous, but it's a whole lot more knife, and it has essentially the same locking mechanism. This one's a lot more like the shark lock as far as the size goes. Doesn't go down the whole spine. You're going to get, the same locking mechanism. This is absolutely gigantic freaking knife. So it's not the same experience, but it's a ton more material than it takes to make this knife, and they're the same price. So I just kind of want to point that out, that I kind of think that the Flytanium Arcade is overpriced. Now we're going to get into these three knives, and these three knives are budget knives. I should pull the fourth out. I should just include the Vision FG in this because it's a budget banger, and it's like the quintessential budget banger. But we have the Vosteed Martin, and we have the Kaiser Drop Bear 2, and I'll even bring out the Civivi Guile. Okay, and like what I want to point out with these knives is that we have similar materials, right, in all these knives, and actually superior materials in some of these knives, and superior blade steels in some of these knives. And you're paying $100. So the tip top, all these knives are budget bangers, and these two knives are the same price, $99. This knife is between, if you don't get like the S35VN exclusive version from Knife Center, I think it is. If you don't get the carbon fiber one, or you don't get the Damascus one, and you stick to the regular Nitro V steel, be it the PVD covered blade, the black blade, or just the satin finish blade with the G10 scales, you're sitting in like the $80-ish range. Kaiser Drop Bear 2, I think, is in the $65 to $70 range, I want to say, is where this knife sits. And the Civivi Guile is like $55, $60. I don't think it's $60. I think it's in the 50s. So we're having Nitro V blade, AUS 10A blade, 154CM blade, Nitro V blade, 14C28N. AUS 10A is going to be more, it might be a little bit more durable than the Nitro V and 14C28N, but I don't really think it is, and it's not going to keep the same edge as it, I don't think. Maybe it will. I haven't put it to the test personally, and all I have is what I've read up on it, and reading up on steels, and like learning this versus that is really hard to do. And I tell you the truth, I'm giving this knife away, so I haven't really cut a whole lot with it, and I don't have a ton of experience with AUS 10A, but just judging on the price points that it's normally at, it's a budget steel, and the 154CM is certainly going to be a higher end steel than it. And I personally, if I was going to order a knife, I would order Nitro V or 14C28N before I'd buy AUS 10A. That's just my opinion on what I would do if I was going to make a knife and buy budget steels for it, had I the choice. So now we're looking at these, and we have polycarbonate frame. Okay, we have a milled aluminum frame here. The stock model has G10. We have G10 here, and we have aluminum here. We have a nested liner here. That's nice. We have a nested liner here. That's nice. No nested liner here, here, or here. Actually, this is, okay, so I take that back. This liner is nested except for at the, in fact, this doesn't have a liner. I was wrong. There is no liner to this knife. It is just the lock. So this is a polycarbonate knife with a little bit of a liner around the lock for it to lock to. So that's what keeps it light. But I'm not sure how I feel about that as far as quality and strength goes. Maybe it is strong. Maybe it's super strong. I know it's not going to be as strong as aluminum. I prefer aluminum over them. So this is going to be like $30 cheaper. This is going to be the same price, but we have a upgraded steel. We have definitely an upgraded body style. These have top liner locks, which are compression lock knives, button activated compression lock knife. We have the same thing here, And I would consider every bit as quality of a locking mechanism as the Demco Shark Lock. Strength-wise, rigidity-wise, safety-wise. This one might be a little bit more fidget fun if you're just into it. But like that's fun factor. This does have a less desirable lock, in my opinion, with its liner lock. But I digress. Basically, what I'm getting at out of these knives is that this one is the most expensive on the table. It's equally most expensive. It's tied for first place with these two, and you can get better materials out of these other knives. Now, this is one of the bigger knives here, and it might be one of the most aesthetic knives here. I really love the aesthetics on this knife, but it's just too small for me. I do not really like the looking aesthetics of this knife. However, it feels really good in my hands. So its ergonomics are great, and it cuts really well. I just don't think it's like the prettiest knife. I don't know why. I don't think so. This is unique and awesome. This is this is the bar that budget bangers are set at. This is the number one, in my opinion. It just is number one. This would be a close second if it was just a tad bit bigger. And then the Civivi Guile is awesome. I haven't gotten to review this knife yet, but it is killer, and for its price, it is absolutely outstanding. So what I'm getting at with all these knives, you guys, it's a good knife. The Flytanium Arcade is a good knife. I think it's a little too expensive for its britches. I think that there's budget knives that you can get that are better quality for less money. Now, the one thing I'm going to say is the fit of this knife in my hand is like perfect. So that does contribute to a lot. This knife feels amazing in my hand. It feels the right size. It feels good when I'm gripping it. It really does. This looks plain Jane as heck, but you know what? It works. Hats off to you, Flytanium. It looks like when I look at this, I'm like, who designed this? It's straight lines. It's not completely straight, but just it works. Whoever designed it well, because it works. I don't want it to when I look at it. I'm just like, what the heck? I don't like the fact that I can squeeze this. I can like flex these. It is so, I don't like that. I wish it was more rigid. I want it to be, I don't like the fact I can just squeeze this with my fingers. I don't like the material. But blade steel is fine. We're really getting nitpicky in budget blade steels because they all are going to handle pretty similarly for you. The blade geometry on this is outstanding, and the ergonomics of this knife are great. So if you're looking for a knife that's a little bit on the bigger side, if you have bigger hands and a budget banger, this could be a really good knife for you. If you're looking for a shark lock, this is the budget knife for you. It really is. Does it beat the Vision FG? No, it doesn't. Maybe you want a drop point, so this knife gets taken out of the equation. Okay, there you go. Now this thing's back. It's a winner again. So if you want what this knife is good for, go get this knife. If you want like the really good, perfect size of a everyday carry knife in a budget banger, go get this knife. If you want a shark lock, go get this knife. If you want a really light knife, it's probably going to be good quality and good to use, go get this knife. It's really light. If you want to do some upgrades to your budget knife, like put a backspacer in it, or maybe eventually change the blade of it one day and upgrade it you could upgrade it to this blade. If you want to do something like that, all right, yeah, go with the Arcade Lite. It comes in a lot of really cool colors. You can get in like Slimer neon green. I'm pretty sure you can get it in. You can get it in all sorts of colors. I got it in black because I like stealthy looking knives like this. So is it a winner? It could be. Is it a winner for me? No, it's not. It's not the knife I would choose as my quintessential budget banger. Does it pass the test? Yeah, it passes the test. Could you get a better knife for cheaper? In my opinion, yes. But, with an asterisk next to it saying that you aren't going to find one with, probably not going to find one with a shark lock. You're not going to find a drop point, and like really the ergonomics of this knife and the blade geometry of this knife really set it apart as just a really good knife. So it kind of earns its way back for that. And when we're talking sub $100, adding $20 here, taking away $10 there, like guys, just go get the knife you want. Like if it's between $80 and $90, like geez Louise, just save the extra $10 up, spend the extra $10. It's buy once, cry once. You're not going to miss it. I promise you're not going to miss $20. And when you're thinking about a knife and a knife you enjoy versus a knife you don't enjoy, like if it came down to like, let's take the biggest like example, like, oh, okay, this one's $55, this one's $99. I don't want to spend the money, but I don't like Wharncliffe's. I really want to get a drop point, but I want to save money. You're not gonna cry about the $35, $40 in difference between these two knives. That $40 you're not gonna miss in a week or two. Like I promise you're not. You know, we're talking hundreds of dollars, getting close to $1,000. Yeah, start making those choices that make a little bit more. You know, it makes more of a difference. You know, like, but if we're talking, you know, the difference between $80 and $9, gosh, guys, just go get the one you want. Who cares? And I don't mean to sound rash. I know that to some people, $100 is a lot of money to spend on a knife, but I still think that at the end of the day, if we're comparing, you know, knives and there's $10 or $15 difference, just save the extra little bit. Just spend the extra little bit and get what you want. So if this is what you want, go get it. It's a cool knife. Is it for me? No, I don't think it is. Are there things I would change about this knife? There certainly are. Could Flytanium come out with the Arcade Lite version 2 with, you know, a bit better of a handle material and maybe a slightly upgraded blade steel? I think they sure could. So that's that with this knife. It's a Flytanium Arcade Lite. It's a budget banger. It's a little bit outside its britches with its price, but when we're talking about sub $100 knives, like really not the biggest deal. So one last thing before I go, you guys, this knife is going to be given away. I am giving away this knife to one of my subscribers. Like I said in my announcement for the giveaway, I had a daughter that was born 3 weeks ago. Her name's Mila Grace, and she is the cutest little peanut. And I am so over the moon in love with her and happy and joyous. And I just wanted to take a moment to celebrate her. And the way I'm going to celebrate her with you guys is by giving something back to you guys. And I'm giving away this knife to a lucky winner. And yeah, it's from me and it's from Mila. And we're just celebrating Mila coming into this world. And I'm just overjoyed. And tell you the truth, you guys, you bring me a ton of joy. You bring me so much happiness. I love reviewing knives for you guys. I love doing YouTube for you guys. I love the interaction that I have with this community. I love you guys, and you mean a ton to me. And the interactions that I have with you guys, I cherish them. So hopefully I can just give a little bit back to you guys, and one of you will get, you know, a gift from me, and hopefully you'll remember me and Mila when you use this knife. So this is the Flytanium Arcade Lite. This is the Cutting Room Knife Review. I'm your host, Garrett. And until next time, you guys, stay sharp.